we're here at Prague, we're here in Prague at Charles University with a Strathclyde student who's on international exchanges here. So Marc, do you want to introduce yourself and what you study at Strathclyde and what you're doing here in Prague?
I'm Marc Strathie. I'm studying history and politics at Strathclyde, and I'm also studying history and politics at Charles University. I've been here 1 month now, so this is my faculty building here. This is where all my classes are, and I've got a great view of the castle as well. So yeah, so it's a very nice, lovely uni to say the least. Yeah.
And what made you want to go on international exchange?
I've always been quite interested in travelling around the world. I've always travelled a lot, so it was one thing that always appealed to me, and I think in the current kind of modern world, you need to show that you're diligent enough to travel around. You're not. It's nice to take a step out your comfort zone, appreciate a new culture, because it's easy to get so comfortable in your own city and you don't really meet new people, and that's one thing that really attracted me here. I've met people from all across the world and really close to a lot of guys now, and particularly Prague. It's so central in Europe. I've been to Oktoberfest. It's amazing how central we are here in Prague. So it was definitely a major draw factor for me to come here.
What was your kind of first feeling when you arrived in the city?
I must admit, the first couple of days I was leading up to Prague, I was so excited, and I couldn't wait to get away. And then I think once you arrive, that the reality kind of hits you. You're like, you come to this new city, like a massive city, and you think to yourself, God, that's me, kind of arrived. So it was certainly a kind of culture shock, if you like, when I first got here. But as soon as I think it's important, one thing I would say is try and integrate yourself and embed yourself in the culture as quick as you can, and just try and meet new people. Just don't be afraid to introduce yourself, because everyone is in the same boat. We're all here, everyone wants to have a good time, and the majority of people come here are all people who like to meet new people. So I think one thing I would always say is just make sure you introduce yourself to people quickly as you can, and hopefully if you're lucky like myself, then you'll meet some great people.
And we hear from students quite a lot that one of the main reasons they don't want to go on international exchange is that they are worried about going to a lecture in France and having to be taught in French and not really know language, or living in a city and not really knowing how to communicate with people. How do you get around these language barriers?
Well, I must say, I was just saying earlier on that I don't actually speak any Czech at all. I know basic words, but I think one thing about Prague in particular, I can only obviously speak for Prague, but the majority of people here can speak English. As you've seen today as well, all my lectures are in English, so it's actually okay. There's not really that much problems. And in Hostava, or halls of residence, the receptionist people don't really speak any English, but I think if you try and enunciate and try and, you need to show hand movements quite a lot, and eventually you get around it. But I definitely wouldn't be put off by that. And every day there's always people that do Czech courses, and they try and help you as much as you can, but I don't think it's major worry. Obviously it's good to try and learn the basics, because you don't want to be lazy and just expect everyone to speak English. But I think in the modern world now, Prague is quite a cosmopolitan city. It's Central Europe. The majority of people do speak English, so I don't think that would be a worry at all, really.
I can always compare currency by the price of beer, and we've managed to enjoy a few of those so far as well. We hear from students quite a lot that they don't want to do international exchange as well, because they're worried about the cost of it. So what could you say a little bit about how you're getting along financially?
I mean, again, from a Prague perspective, coming from the UK and Scotland, it is, ridiculously cheap for me anyway. I've just, to put it in perspective, my 1 month rent is £3,800, which equates to, I think it's £111 a month for rent, and my 5 months travel pass, so that's me for my full semester, including trams, trains, buses, night trams also, that's about £27-28 for 5 months. So it's actually, in essence, you could be paying more when you're studying at home. For me, I live in Falkirk, and a monthly pass on the train from Falkirk to Glasgow is £196. So I'm getting 1 month rent, a 5 months travel pass, and then how much else on top of that? Food's cheap, drinking's cheap. It's generally quite a cheap place to live for people coming from the UK, for sure.
And looking at the experience as well, another thing, probably the last thing that we hear from students is why they don't do international exchange is that they're worried about, you know, being on their own in this big city and not knowing anybody. Like, how has that been for you?
I think it's of course it's a natural kind of worry. You come and you think, oh, I'm not going to meet anyone, and nobody's, you know, I'm not going to take to anyone. I mean, like, I came here to Prague, and of course I was only one here, so I was really coming here and a step at the unknown, kind of throwing myself into the deep end. But I think I actually enjoyed that, you know, because it does force you to get to know people, and I know some people might be worried about that, but I think if you really focus on it, be a bit small-minded, because like I said before, everyone here in Prague anyway, and Erasmus in general, everyone just wants to meet new people, have new experiences, you know. So for me, it's definitely not been a problem at all. I mean, I've got so many different nationalities of friends. It's really cool, like, having people from all across the globe in Europe, and even when we go home after a semester, you know, we all want to come and see each other and travel around. So it's pretty good that way as well.
And have you got any kind of like tips for not just applying for international opportunities, but also when you're away?
Certainly, do a bit of research before you go. It sounds silly, but just the basic stuff. You know, what are the kind of traditional scams? Like, don't exchange money on the street. Also, one thing, a personal thing, my third day in Prague, I got fined £600 because I bought the wrong metro ticket. So just silly things like that, because when you arrive, you get a thing called an ISIC card, which is your international card, and from that you get all your discounts and stuff, which makes everything a lot cheaper. But it's silly things like that can kind of catch you out. So just do a bit of research before you go. Nothing, you know, major, just the basics, you know, learn kind of cultural norms as well, what Czech people don't like. I mean, one thing I think in Prague is people say about, you know, Czech people not being too friendly, and I think you just need to be careful. You just need to take them at face value. You don't be too offended. They're just not. I think coming from Scotland, everyone expects everyone to be so friendly and jump in the joy, like particularly in Glasgow, but I think here it's a different culture. People are a bit more reserved, so don't take it personally and just try and appreciate them and their culture also.
Yeah. I suppose just finally then, what do you think the benefits are for you, not just in the interim? You're obviously studying in this fantastic building here for your faculty, but what about your kind of long-term benefits of being on an experience like this?
Well, I think certainly in the long term, I hope that, I mean, obviously on a CV, you know, it does look good, obviously, to show you've travelled about, but it's not just that. I think that it'll give me the kind of confidence as well to think that if any other further opportunities come up, I don't know exactly in Strathclyde in fourth year or masters if you can travel about, but I think it would definitely give me the confidence to do it again, because I think I've already done it before, I'd like to do it again. And I think one thing for me anyway is when I eventually leave uni, I certainly would quite like to travel around the world or work elsewhere, and I think it certainly helps when you live in a new city. You get a feel for what a city's like out with your own city. So I think for sure that in the long term, I hope that it'll benefit me, obviously on the CV, but I hope that it'll kind of broaden my mindset as well and kind of give me that confidence to travel across the world if any opportunities come up again.
So do you have any kind of final thoughts or words of wisdom specifically for people that might be thinking about applying for something like this?
The main things are obviously go to all the kind of Erasmus meetings, try and get, have a little research about the cities that you want to go to. I'd never been to Prague before, but it was always a place that quite interested me. It's quite a historical city, being obviously a history student, that kind of was a major draw for me. But I think for sure I wouldn't say to anyone like to be fearful of coming, you know, because the majority of people, I've actually not heard one bad story since I've been here, like any kind of horror stories. I mean, like, okay, the first couple of weeks are stressful, getting classes sorted and stuff like that, but once you do it, you really do start to enjoy it. So I would 100% say go for it for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks very much, Marc.
Okay, guys. Cheers. Thank you.